let me ask you a question. What do you think the best horror trope is? Whether you're someone who loves horror, loves overthinking, or just loves games in general, or just a game dev looking for tips, this is the video for you. Hi, hello, and welcome to the video. My name's Danahan, and this is Overthinking Media, where we overthink all things anime, gaming, cinematic, and entertaining with intense style discussion on subjects that may not change the world, but are fun to overthink. I love horror, I love Halloween, and I love scary games. And these are my 7 favourite horror tropes. Number 1. Mannequins, dolls, and statues. When it comes to horror, mannequin dolls and statues are probably one of the most effective scares there is when it comes to me. I love them and I despise them. There's something about them that just freaks me out and I love it. I think it's because they're so human. Or maybe it's the fact of just how subtly they can move and leave such a lasting effect. Maybe it's the fact that if just one singular doll, mannequin, or statue one time moves once in the entire game, it implants this little idea in the back of your head that any doll, mannequin, or statue anywhere in the entire game could in fact move. And it just has that little nagging thought in the back of your head every time you pass a statue, every time you walk past one, it's like, is it going to move? No? Okay, you're going to keep going. Is it going to... No? Okay. Hey, there's a doll. Good! No? Okay. Statue! No. And it just sticks in your head because you saw one. You saw one move, one time in the entire game. You're like, okay, cool. If statue can move, then any of them can move. I saw one move, that means there's others that can move, so I'm going to keep an eye out for any single one that can move. To the game devs out there, if you want to use mannequin, dolls, or statue in your horror game, all you need to do is make 1 in 50 move. Maybe even maybe 1 in 20 to make it a little more effective, but literally just 1 in a massive amount of statues, dolls, or mannequins. Just make them move ever so subtly, maybe ever so little. There are 2 really effective ways of doing this. The first one is having a player walk down a corridor with a doll, mannequin, or statue, whatever it may be. And as they're walking down this corridor, once they've walked past the statue, have the lights flicker. For just a tiny little moment. Just maybe it's part of the game, maybe it's just why did the lights flicker? And in that dark, in that tiny short moment of darkness, have perhaps footsteps just run past your head. Or maybe that. Just have the sound of something moving within your vicinity that you just can't quite see because it went dark for a split second. And then once the lights do come back on, the statue, doll, or mannequin is gone now. Huh. I mean, the obvious answer is someone picked up the statue, doll, or mannequin and moved it, right? Yeah, but how do they move so fast? The lights only flickered for like a second. That would have meant they had to come all the way down the hallway, pick up the statue, doll, and mannequin, and then run out of the corridor without me noticing the entire time. And if someone were running down the corridor before the lights flickered, I surely would have seen them behind me or in front of me. But no, the lights just flickered, and now the statue, doll, and mannequin is gone. How many other statues, dolls, or mannequins are there in this game? Do I have to be concerned about this? Are they a threat? What the hell happened to the dolls, statue, and mannequin? Where did they go? It's super effective, just so simple. Literally, just as it flashed, just even if you want to be like simple and cheap about it, just as lights flick, let's just get rid of the texture file. Just like, okay, have this texture file stand here, lights flicker, reload a new level in that split second, and just have it without the mannequin on there. I'm sure it's a lot more complicated than it sounds. But literally, just have it literally like, cool. When the lights flickers, have statue no click through the wall. That's all you gotta do. The second way is, and this is my favourite way of doing this sort of stuff because it's just so tasty subtle. Have a mannequin, doll, or statue in a location where it's very clear you can see where they're looking at. And make it so you as the player have to walk past this doll, statue, or mannequin. And as you do walk past it, you can very clearly see, yeah, it's looking in that direction. Okay, that is the direction it's looking in. So you keep walking past it, walking past. Doesn't need to have like a flashing screen or loud noise or blah or anything like that. Just have it as you walk past, la la la. No audio at all, just have it happen as you walk past, la la la. And if you look back, suddenly it's looking that direction now. It's looking back at you. Like it's looking down the corridor corridor. I mix up my letters. It's looking down the corridor at the way you're coming from. So you're walking up and like, hi, statue, it's looking at me. Okay, cool. And walk past. Okay, it's no longer looking at me. Cool. Bang. What was that? No. Look back and suddenly it's looking back at you. It doesn't have to be the entire statue has like moved or anything. It can literally be as subtle as just the head subtly moving. Or even subtler than that, which you may not even notice happen. It's just the eyes have suddenly changed to look a different direction. It's simple, it's subtle, it's tiny, but when you notice it and when it happens, oh my god, it is tasty and I love it in horror. It's just so great because every single statue there, and you have to be like, okay, right, I'm gonna walk past that statue. It's looking that way, the eyes are looking that way. Still looking that way, still looking that way. Okay, look away, look back, still looking that way. Okay, step, step, step. Look away, still looking that way. Step, step, step. Still looking that way. Okay, this statue isn't going to move. And then if you want to turn around, there's a statue like, ah! It'd be great. I love that kind of, like, Weeping Angel style. It's just, oh, it's so good! Dead Space does something similar with the Decromorphs. What the hell are Decromorphs? Like 10-arm Necromorphs? Oh, that'd be terrifying. Necromorphs, I mean. Dead Space does something similar with Necromorphs, where not all Necromorphs are a threat, but any why do I keep saying Decromorphs? Any Necromorph may be a threat. Shall I try that again? So, Dead Space does something amazing with Necromorphs, where not every Necromorph is a threat, but any Necromorph can be a threat. But I talk a lot more about Necromorphs in my video on Dead Space, so go check that out if you haven't already. Moving on from inanimate objects though, let's talk about living threats. When it comes to horror games, or just games in general, the vast majority of us feel absolutely nothing towards killing dozens, if not hundreds of adults, whether they're a threat or not. At the end of the day, we kill them because we survive. We feel nothing towards that because we have to kill them to survive. That's just a rule in most games. Sometimes you kill innocent people and for that you're a monster. But when you do have to fight to survive and you kill an adult, you feel nothing. You're like, okay, cool, I killed them, I survived, I'm the winner. However, the second a game puts a child in front of you, you have to realise, oh, I have to kill that child. Huh. Granted, it is probably a homicidal, sociopathic, mutated, demonic, zombie-possessed serial killer with no sense of empathy or remorse, but it's still a child, which you, as the player, have to kill. And regardless of what it is now, either it is that homicidal, sociopathic, mutated, demonic, zombie, serial killer with no sense of remorse or empathy, at one point, it was a child. And you have to end the life of that entity. And somehow, that just triggers something in me that leaves me uncomfortable. Cry of Fear is an amazing multi-hour long experience which have these enemies that I dub bin bag children. And they're creepy as hell. They'll pop out of nowhere, out of the bin bags, and run at you with their knives like, it's scary, it's unsettling, it's creepy, but at the end of the day, you have to put those down because they're threats who will kill you. Even so, they are still children. Yes, the game does have the mothers who have the long, like, spear-like limbs, which how they manage to walk on them I do not know. Women walk in high heels all the time, that's impressive enough, but these things are literally pointed blades that they're walking on. It's very impressive. And yes, they're annoying and a threat, and yeah, but like I said, killing an adult, no problem. I got no problem with that. Do not take that clip out of context. But shooting a child, or ending the life of a child, even one that is a sociopathic, homicidal, mutated, demonic serial killer with no sense of remorse, empathy, who might also be a zombie, it's difficult. Unless you're playing Cry of Fear, because those things are just creepy and I don't feel any remorse towards killing them. But other games, yeah. Killing kids in games is uneasy. And it's a great horror trope, because so many games stray away from having children at all in their game. Let alone child enemies. Resident Evil 4 even has an in-game memo reason for why there's no children in the village. They're all killed off by Las Plagas because they couldn't survive the parasite incubation. Despite having no children, Resident Evil 4 does have amazing music, which leads nicely into the next topic, the effective and proper use of audio in horror. Personally, and I doubt I'm alone in this statement, I believe the effective and proper use of audio in horror games can make or break the entire game. No matter how good or bad it may visually and storytelling and like mechanically work, if the audio is good, even a bad game can be amazing. And if the game is amazing but the audio is terrible, it can just ruin the game. But I talk a lot more about audio in horror in my video talking about audio in horror, which if you haven't checked out, check out. It's pretty damn good. Moving on to the next trope, let's talk about the concept of a bigger world. The concept of a bigger world in horror doesn't need to be massive. It doesn't need to be in your face like, guess what, it's a bigger world, it's a universe, it's a multiverse. It can be subtle, it can be simple, and it can be like one of the little things that's like, there's a tiny note that goes, oh, this single note in the entire game is like, oh, this one note changes everything. Suddenly, this story about this contained event in this location spreads out massively. Maybe having some redacted files somewhere on one desk. Perhaps talking about another location. Maybe on Earth, maybe in space, maybe in a different dimension. It doesn't have to be big, just be a single file talking about Project X and location Y in dimension Q. It doesn't have to say what dimension Q is, it just has to say, hey, transdimensional experiment 7 has failed. Failed, is that the reason this is happening? Did it fail because of something? Why is this happening? Or even just giving the player a glimpse of the truth. It doesn't need to exposition the entire wiki's worth of the game universe to the player. And in most cases, it really shouldn't. Instead, it just needs to inform the player that there is, in fact, more to the game than they're experiencing. In the universe of this game, there is a larger world going on. Stephen King's The Mist is an amazing example of this construct. While there are creatures in the story, and they do exist in this world, or in the world of The Mist, we don't know the actual extent to how many there are, or how big they are, where they go, or what they are. While there are the ones we have either read or watched about, depending if you read the book or watched the movie, what other ones are out there? What about ones that can turn on underground? What about ones that can turn invisible? What about ones that can teleport? What about ones that live in water? How many others are there? We don't know. And that's what's so amazing about it. Check out my video on unknown factors if you want to know more about that. Hit the little I to be informed about all of those. Regardless of actual horror, just games in general, but specifically in horror, I love it when it just feels like you're stepping into a story, as opposed to being the center of the universe. Everything revolves around you. You're the main character. Everything must be yours. In the case of Half-Life, while you are the one who puts the anomalous material in the anti-mass spectrometer, Zen and the interdimensional war between the Combine and the Zenians, they're alien creatures, was raging on long before that morning. Gordon was just an unknown pawn in the story. As the G-Man says,
the right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world.
Outlast is another amazing game that does this construct amazingly. I like the word amazing in this video. That's the word of today. Amazing! Mount Massive Asylum and, spoilers, Dr. Wernicade, the Doctor had already been running experiments on the inmates for over half a century. Century is 100 years, yeah? Decade is 10 years, century is 100 years. Yes, half a century before the events of the game began. Miles just happened to choose the wrong day to show up. Once again, the right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. And does in the case of Outlast. Bioshock is another game that does this very effectively. Rapture had fallen into dystopia years before the start of the game. Jack just happened to end up there at that time. And yeah, I know, okay, I know. For those about to leave a comment correcting me, would you kindly not? Regardless of how old the game is, there may still be those who haven't experienced it, and they deserve a first-hand experience of playing that game, so do not spoil it for them. Speaking of not knowing things, unknown horror, which is the horror where you don't have all the information, and probably never will. Sometimes throughout the game you can get additional information that leads you to almost the entire answer, like, hey, here's 95% of the puzzle, but the other 5% we are never going to know the answer. You can theorize about it, but we're never going to confirm whether this 5% is correct or not. However, in a lot of cases, it's more, here's the story, here's the information, but we're going to give you about that much of it. Like, yeah, here's the massive story. Like, we have a massive, huge lore to this game. Right? It is massive, it's fantastic, but this is all you're going to get. It leaves it up to the player to come to their own conclusion as to what the answer is. To come to their own conclusion to what the full story is. Whether it's right or not. And hey, maybe it is right, maybe it's not. It's the player's interpretation of the game. And whatever that is, that's fine. As long as they don't go around saying, this is the definitive answer, or this is how it should be, or you're wrong for thinking that way, and I'm right for thinking the way I am. It's fine. Everyone comes to their own conclusion. The anime Gantz is a good example of this. There is a gun in the anime that when you're shot with it, teleports you to another location. Where that location is, though, we don't know. The laser shoots upwards, presumably towards space. Maybe it's going to a satellite and shooting them somewhere else. Maybe it's just killing them. Maybe it's taking them to an alien world. Maybe it's taking them to an alien ship. Maybe it's putting them somewhere else. Maybe it's taking them to a lab to be experimented on. We don't know. We never know. It never tells us. And that's brilliant. And it goes hand in hand with the concept of a bigger world. Because we don't know where this gun sends them. Maybe it sends them to a completely other world where they have become the aliens who fight the humans. That's a cool concept. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. We don't know. But we don't know, and that's why it's so good. Bird Box is another great example of this. What is it they saw? We don't know. We never do know. We have the drawings from the, not sane, but how accurate is that? Maybe it is angelic. Maybe it is demonic. Maybe it's just your worst fear. Maybe it's your most loved memory. We don't know, and we never do know, and that's great because we just don't need to know, and there's so many theories around it, and just it's great. I love unknown horror. Or in the case of actual video game unknown horror. Once again, returning to Half-Life and the G-Man. What the hell is the G-Man? It has been a quarter of a century. And we still have no answers. Sure, we got Half-Life Alyx a couple of years ago, which didn't actually give us any information. It just told us what we already knew. G-Man has the ability to move through space and time. We already knew that. It has been 25 years, and this topic is still being discussed. People actively. And we don't have the answer. And I think that's great. Because whatever the answer is, it'll be disappointing. That is a fact. At this point, it's been a quarter of a century, and we don't have an answer. So whatever the truth is, it will disappoint us. As Scott Colvin said about the FNAF box, the context of the box has changed multiple times over the course of the game. I felt the need to change it because, what was it he said? Because would players accept the truth of what was in the box? Or something like that. Here's the actual quote, I think, get it.
I watch all the game theory videos, and, me and Matt have sometimes had an antagonistic relationship back and forth. I inconvenience him with my games, and sometimes he inconveniences me with his theories, but it's all in good fun, But I'll tell you, he did a video on that box, and he kind of said that he thinks the contents of the box changed over the years. And I bet nobody gave that a whole lot of thought, but I saw that and I was like, he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. The contents of that box have changed over the years because, it's for that very reason. It's because, of what I was intending the game to be when it happened. And then after the reaction of it, I was like, I need to craft this into something better for the people who see this as important. And that kind of indirectly does change the contents of the box, because it changes the contents of everything that came before. So I thought that was an interesting observation on his part.
Or in the case of another horror game, what about The Last of Us? What if the human mind inside the clicker is still conscious? What if they're aware of what they're doing? What if they're conscious and can watch themselves attack these people, but because of the control of the cordyceps, they're unable to fight back? What if they have to watch themselves commit these terrible acts they have no control over? Maybe you've never thought about it. Maybe it never crossed your mind. Maybe the idea just passed you by because it was a video game. It's understandable, it's just a video game. But actually think about it for a moment. Imagine in a zombie apocalypse if those infected are still aware, but can't scream out, trapped inside their own body, watching themselves have to do these horrifying acts. Ability. We don't know that's not true. Of course, we don't know anything else. It's unknown horror. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. We have no way of knowing. But next time you do play a zombie game, just think about it next time you kill a zombie. What if they're still aware? What if you just shot down someone's dad, someone's mum, someone's son, someone's sister, someone's loved one. Every person who's infected was someone at one point. And maybe they're still aware. Maybe they want to die. Maybe they're scared of dying. Whatever it is, you just killed a person. Or at least you killed someone that was once a human and may still have the mind of a human. Zombie games feel different now, don't they? Suddenly you're not just gunning down zombies because, haha, zombies! Yay, killing! No, you're killing actual people. You're killing people that used to have lives. You're killing people that used to be just like you. Hey, you may even get infected in the game. You may become just like them. In every zombie game, at one point, every zombie you killed was a person just like you. Let's sit in that for a moment, shall we? Quite scary, isn't it, when you think about it? Very uncomfortable. Suddenly they're just not mindless zombies. Suddenly they're survivors, good lives, good partners, good families. You killed them. I thought like that is something that's quite easy to overlook sometimes. Easy to miss. Which, speaking of things that are easy to miss, let's talk about the next topic. Subtle, easy to miss scares. To summarise, this is the horror where, if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. There's no loud noise or scream or flashing light or something to draw your attention to it. It just happens, and if you miss it, you miss it. It's the doll that's always looking at you, no matter where you look at. As you walk through the room, the eyes just seem to follow you. It's the shadow that crosses past your window outside at night. It's the door that wasn't ajar when you walked past it originally, but now you look back, it is. This is what I mean by subtle horror. It's the tiny little things that can elevate the game so much. And they're so easy to implement, which if you want to know more, check out my video on subtle jump scares. I really like this one, it's a really good one. They're all great, but this one I really like because I love subtle jump scares, I think they're amazing. However, overall, the most effective horror trope in any game, I think, is horror that will affect you in the real world. I love, and to an extent, absolutely hate and despise horror that is effective enough that it leaves a lasting effect on me in my day-to-day life, such as choosing to get soaked by the rain instead of using an umbrella just in case it turns out, like in the game, it turns out to be a real-life, spider-like mimic creature that the second you put the umbrella over your head, it slams shut and eats its victim. Or using the stairs instead of getting the umbrella and walking 50 floors because I don't want to get in an elevator just in case there's a giant monstrous spider living in the elevator shaft that pulls unsuspecting victims into its web and devours them alive. Or taking an extra 5 minutes to walk home instead of taking the short underpass that saves me so much time just in case there was a giant monstrous demon-like spider hiding in one of the divots. Or even refusing to look in a mirror for a week after I played the game, just in case I look in the mirror and I see behind me the giant, demonic, monstrous spider has escaped from the game and was right behind me in my reflection. Or even just walking away from my computer after a long day of editing, writing and working on videos to find out all the lights in my house are off. So instead of going downstairs to get dinner, I just shut my door just in case, in the dark, there was a giant 8-limbed demonic monster, spiritual demon spider lurking. You know, maybe it's just spiders I'm scared of. As for actual horror games, some of my favourite include Alien Isolation, Outlast 1, Soma, Subnautica, and Spooky's House of Jump Scares, or Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion, whatever it may be at this point. But why? Well, individually, Alien Isolation always keeps you feeling uneasy. Outlast, because it's such a simple, realistic, possible situation. Sort of. To an extent. It feels real to the point where when the weird stuff does start happening, you're like, you know what, this is grounded enough that I feel like this could be real. And it's great. Soma, because the horror of the actions you have to take throughout the game, and realising the actual reality of the situation you find yourself in the game. Subnautica, because the alien monsters and the amazing use of audio in that game. Do not sleep on the audio. If you're going to play Subnautica, put your goddamn headphones in. That's not even a request, that is to demand. If you're playing Subnautica, wear your goddamn headphones. Didn't know I was that passionate about that. I guess I really do like the efficiency of audio. Once again, check out my audio video. That wasn't scripted. I don't know where that came from, but yeah, seriously, if you're going to play Subnautica, make sure you got surround sound headphones. That game deserves to be worn and played. You can't really wear a game. Maybe you can, VR headsets. I'm going off track. If you're going to play Subnautica, wear your 3D surround sound headphones and crank that audio up, because you deserve to scream like a little girl, because that game's great. Moving on. Spooky House of Jump Scares, or Spooky Jump Scare Mansion. The reason I love this game so much is because, just quite honestly, it just holds a really special place in my heart. It was the first game I played on my gaming channel back in the day, and it really did scare me a lot. And I think it was great. Like, it's such a simple game, but honestly, it's so simple, it's so good. And it's just, there's so much love put into that game, it feels like. So, go check it out. There's a free-to-play version, or there's a version you can play, the HD remake. Both are great. However, an overarching reason I love all these games is they all have three things in common. You're vulnerable, you're isolated, and once you find yourself in the situation, your character does the most logical thing they can to survive, which is one of the biggest factors in horror games, and games in general, for me. That if you ever find yourself in a situation, your character does the logical thing, and most reasonable, and smartest thing that they can do, instead of doing the dumbest possible choice because story! But I talk more about that in another video, so go check it out on Thinking Logically in Horror Games. The whole playlist is in little I think they're great, go check them out. So, what's the takeaway from this video? To be honest, there really isn't one. I guess if you're ever going to make a devoted game for me that's based around horror that you want to make for me to play, these are the tropes you should really use, I guess, and take inspiration from the games I mentioned. Is that a valid takeaway? I guess for the game devs, the takeaway would be this. Each horror trope is different. Each person is different. You're never going to make a game that appeals to everyone. And that's fine. If a game isn't to your liking as a player, that's also fine. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that game wasn't for you, or maybe it didn't appeal to you or your demographic, or didn't scare you in the right ways, which is fine. There are so many games out there that there is one that you'll enjoy, there's one you won't enjoy, but that doesn't mean either is better than the other. Admittedly, yes, some may be objectively higher standard than the other, but that doesn't mean the scares are any worse. Possibly. I'm kind of off track. Point was being, if a scare isn't for you, it doesn't make the game bad. It just means it wasn't for you. So back to the game devs. If you're going to make a horror game, just make the game that you want to make, with the scares you want to make in it. Because you're never going to appeal to everyone. Sure, you can try using the most popular, overused, oversaturated horror tropes. They work, but how well will they work in you? So just make the game you want to make. But hey, back to the individual. Let me know what your horror tropes are. Let me know what your favourite horror tropes are in the comment section below. And hey, recommend some games that use these tropes. Maybe I've played them, maybe I haven't. Maybe someone else will see the comment and go, hey, I like those horror tropes. I haven't played this game, or that game. I'm going to check out these games. And we can start a community of like-minded, horror enthusiastic watchers. Because that's what I want to do. That is why I make these videos. I am overthinking media. I start topics on anime, gaming, cinematic, and entertaining things with the intent to start a discussion, an actual discussion on topics that may not change the world, but are fun to think about. That is my intent here. I want to start a discussion around these subjects. So please, leave a comment recommending your favourite tropes and games that use them. Because I love horror so much. I love horror games. I may not get around to playing them for the next few years, but I will get around to playing any games that pique my interest, eventually. I still need to play Slime Rancher 2, that's been over a year at this point. Whoopsie daisy! And once again, this is not the only video I've made on horror. If you want to see more videos on horror, there is a little eye in the corner that has a whole bunch of horror videos, and they are fantastic. Maybe a little egotistical to say that, but I think they're great. Go check them out. I made them, I put my heart into them, I really cared about them, I've been working on them for ages, so I really hope you enjoy them. Hey, if you do want to stay up to date with my latest content, let's see if I can stay this in the first try! If you want to stay up with my latest content, make sure to slap that subscribe button like a spooky, scary salmon successfully sing... No, messed it up. Round 2! If you want to stay up with my latest content, make sure to slap that subscribe button like a successfully spooky, scary southern salmon sourly swims, successfully singing scary songs southwards, stay up there with all my latest content. That may be right, that may be wrong, I think I got that right. What do I actually say? Slap that subscribe button like a successfully strong, spooky, salty southern salmon sourly swims, secretly singing scary songs, stay on my latest content. I didn't get it right, but I might have some words to it. Either way, if this is my first video, if this is my first, words. If this is the first video of mine you've watched, I ask just one thing from you at the very end. Leave a comment telling me where you found my video. Was it on someone else's video? Was it on your homepage? Did someone send it to you? Was it just a random video you decided to watch? Was it the autoplay next? Because I am always fascinated to know where my audience is. Like, forget engagement. Like, yeah, it does drive engagement. Hooray, fantastic. I've tricked you into commenting. I don't care about that. You've watched my video. I hope you enjoyed it. That's all that matters to me. I just want to know where my community is coming from. Silly. Anyway, it is super warm. It's super hot. I need a drink, so I'm going to end the video here. Thank you so much for watching. There'll be videos on screen that you can watch for additional horror content. And once again, slap subscribe if you want to step to go my content. That wasn't words. Out.